I think this has been the worst week of Donald Trump's second term as president. Now, admittedly, we only are a year and a little bit in, but this week has featured losses on the political front, the legal front, the congressional front. It's really been, I think, a series of really bad defeats that suggest that he is losing his touch with the Republican Party, that suggests he's already lost a lot of the American public, and that suggests he's losing in the court system. So I want to go through it all because I think one of the things that I struggle with, and maybe you struggle with too, is there's so much that happens every day with the Trump presidency that sometimes it's hard, I think, to keep track of a week or 3 weeks or a month or 2 months, right? We lose perspective. We're so wrapped up in he just did this thing, and there's a big hubbub about that thing, then we move on to the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing. And we don't ever kind of take one step back, much less a couple steps back, but we don't take a step back and say, okay, what does this look like if we do take that step back? And I will tell you, taking a step back from this week suggests that this has been a really bad week in a series of bad weeks for Donald Trump so far in 2026. I would argue the best thing that happened to Donald Trump in 2026 is the raid in Venezuela that led to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro and his wife. That was very early in the year. Everything else has kind of been downhill. All right, so before I go through why I think this week in particular stands out as bad, I want to ask you to do something simple. Subscribe to this channel. I'm independent, I'm authentic, and I'm here every day breaking down the political news you need to know. I hope you check it out. Hit that subscribe button. All right. I wrote down literally off the top of my head, and then I went and checked and made sure I wasn't forgetting anything. But I went and wrote down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 things that have gone wrong for Donald Trump just this week. Okay. I'm going to go through each of them. I'll do a little bit of a summary, and then we'll come back at the end and talk about sort of where we go from here. A grand jury in D.C. refused to indict the 6 Democrats who took part in that video where they were reiterating the fact that a member of the U.S. military is not required to follow unlawful orders. Obviously, Trump has made a huge deal out of this. He through Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, has tried to bring criminal charges against these folks. This week, that was rejected. Now, it doesn't mean they're done forever, but it means at least this attempt failed. Also, Pete Hegseth is trying to, the Secretary of War, is trying to punish Mark Kelly, the Arizona senator who is one of the 6 Democrats, all of whom had served previously in the military, one of the 6 Democrats in that video where they cited you don't have to follow unlawful orders. Hegseth had his attempt to punish Kelly rejected this week as well. He's trying to downrank him. He's trying to cut his Kelly's pension. So at least for the moment, that also rejected. So 2 setbacks on just that front around just that video that those Democrats made. We saw the Republican-controlled House vote to rebuke Donald Trump on his tariff policies this week. You saw a handful of Republicans cross the aisle to say, no, we think this is bad policy and bad politics. Now, it is important to note, Donald Trump can veto these things that the House and probably the Senate will pass as it relates to tariffs, and there is not a veto-proof majority. There's not a 2/3 majority to override his vetoes. So this is more symbolic than anything else, but you do have the Republican-controlled House and Republican-controlled Senate playing a role in hitting out one of the President of the United States' critical issues, one of the things he actually really believes in, which is tariffs. On Thursday, Tom Homan in Minneapolis said that they were winding down the ICE operation, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement operation in Minneapolis and in Minnesota more broadly. This comes less than a week after they took 700 federal immigration officers out of the state, and it comes only a few weeks after the shootings and fatal shootings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy by immigration officials in the state. This is a recognition that that policy has failed, at least in Minneapolis, that the tone that the immigration officers took, that the the posture they took in general, that the shootings, although Trump administration has not admitted wrongdoing, but that all of that led to a situation that was untenable. Trump brought Homan in to handle it. Homan was there about a week and a half and said, we're getting out of here. Now, also happening at the same time, poll after poll has shown that Republicans have lost the high ground on immigration. There was a recent national poll a couple months ago. Republicans had a 13-point advantage on who do you trust more on the issue of immigration. It's down to 4 over Democrats now. They have lost ground on what was one of Donald Trump's signature issues, and it is no mistake. It is no coincidence. It is because of what happened with Alex Preddy and Renee Good, what we saw on our TV screens and on our phones happening with border enforcement officials in the city of Minneapolis. They lost the public on this, and Homan saying we're going to end and wind up our sort of official ICE program there is a recognition of it. Let's see, what else? Jeffrey Epstein is back in the news and haunting Donald Trump in 2 different ways. First of all, Howard Lutnik, his Commerce Secretary, had said that he had no interaction with Jeffrey Epstein after Epstein was jailed for sexual trafficking in Florida in 2009. Well, turns out in this newest tranche of Epstein Files that have been released by the Department of Justice, that's actually not true. He was on Epstein's infamous island, Lutnik that is, with his family admittedly, but clearly had ties to Epstein even after Epstein had been convicted of a sexual crime. Okay, so that's one. The other one is Pam Bondi was on the Hill on Wednesday, testifying in front of the House Judiciary Committee. A lot of focus on the Epstein investigation and the Epstein files, especially from Democrats on the committee. Bondi was hugely combative, which I think probably helped her with Donald Trump. He put out something on Truth Social praising her, but some of the images coming out of that were tough. Bondi refusing to apologize to the victims of Epstein. Just sort of, again, the more Epstein talk there is, and there was a lot this week between Bondi and Lutnik, not good for Donald Trump. We had some of the top AI companies in the world issue warnings this week about the potential negative impacts of how fast AI is learning and how fast AI is growing. Donald Trump has obviously made a big thing out of how much the U.S. is leading on AI over China. But we've seen, look, the race for AI has its downsides too, whether Donald Trump acknowledges them or not. And there's real world implications, not just in the future, but now. The NASDAQ, which is mostly tech stocks, down 2%. Just on Thursday alone, off of these AI fears. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was down as well. And I will note, Donald Trump always cites the Dow going up, up, up. Sometimes when it goes down, I think you got to be aware of it too. And then finally, I've said this, I made videos about this before, but I want to keep making this point. Donald Trump's approval rating is dropping. He was in the 42, 43, 44% range for a while. Minneapolis has really hurt him in that regard. An AP poll, really good, credible polling organization, had him at 36% approval this week. And that's far from the only one. I've seen several 37%, if they've seen a 38%. And I mentioned this earlier, his favorite pollster, Rasmussen Research, had a poll that showed 48% of people thought Joe Biden had done a better job as president, and 40% of people thought Donald Trump had done a better job. That will really annoy Trump. So you add it all up. I'm not going to go through everything, but the failure to be able to charge the Democrats who talked about not needing to follow an unlawful law if you're in the military, votes against tariffs by the Republican-controlled Congress, ICE, them admitting failure basically in Minneapolis and pulling ICE out, immigration, high ground lost in terms of polling, Epstein back in the news, the AI worries, NASDAQ, the stock market reacting, and then Donald Trump now in the mid to high 30s in polling in terms of job approval. Bad. All of that in the last 7 days. And I'm sure there are a few things I'm missing as well. None of it is good for him. None of it is good for the Republican Party as they head into the November midterms. And so I think this is, without question, the worst week of Donald Trump's second term. And he's had some bad weeks. There's some competition for it, but I think this one probably takes the cake. As I said before, I hope you subscribe. Independent, authentic, and every day I'm breaking down the news. I also hope you like and comment on this video. That helps me grow through the YouTube algorithm. Be an evangelist for me. Tell a few people about this. And if you don't know about my Diamond Club, which is my paid tier on YouTube, go to the membership tab and click on it. I won't go through all of it. You get 2 extra videos every single week, including my conversation every Monday with Chuck Todd that runs about an hour, where we talk about the whole world, politics, sports, culture, and all the rest. Check it out, the Diamond Club on my membership tab. All right, everyone, take care.